This is a Sports Catastrophe production.
Hey there, Heather Ho, there's Jessica O'Dowd. Welcome you to another Sports Catastrophe birthday boy. And the birthday boy for today, December the 19th. He's a former NFL quarterback who played 10 years in the NFL. He played college football for Arizona State, went to Arizona for the NFL, spent 6 seasons with the Cardinals and 4 with the Broncos. He's launched a functional mushroom supplement company that other side mushrooms. His nickname is Jake the Snake, which actually is a tribute to Ken the Snake Stabler and not to pro wrestler Jake the Snake Roberts. But anyway, this man is now 50 years old, the golden birthday of Jake Plummer. You're thinking, why are you doing Jake Plummer? Well, come on, I get the Cardinals organization. We should pity them. Anyway, he was born December 19th, 1974 in Boise, Idaho. He and his 2 older brothers grew up in Smiley Creek and were in the family's lumber mill and warehouse a lot. Anyway, well, he was born Jason Stephen Plummer, and then he decided to go by Jake because there were 4 other students named Jason, and they needed a different name. So he did that, and then he graduated from Capitol High School in 1993, becoming a 3-sport star in high school, played baseball, basketball, and football. He wanted to play football at Stanford, but they wanted to give him a walk-on offer. He had a feeling about going to California, and it looked like he was going to be a Cal Golden Bear. You know, the school that Aaron Rodgers went to? Anyway, it was until Hugh Jackson, who at the time was a coach at Arizona State, heavily recruited Plummer and convinced him to join the Sun Devils. Arizona State as a quarterback college was not really that big, except for Danny White. Regardless of that, Boise State, Idaho, Montana, Oregon State, Washington State, and Wyoming all gave him offers. So he accepted the offer to Arizona State and was actually the starting quarterback early in his freshman season in 1993. He was impressive in his freshman career. 9 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. But, he's a freshman. He became a sophomore and broke 2,000 yards passing and got 15 touchdown passes. As a junior in 95, he put up 2,200 plus passing yards with 17 touchdowns. Arizona State was 6-5. However, he came back for his senior season and it was one of the best in school history. A lot of you would probably guess about the 97 Rose Bowl. We'll get to it. Anyway, Arizona State actually attracted national attention as early as September 21st in 96 when Nebraska, top ranked and back-to-back national champions, came to the desert to play. It was also when Arizona State actually gave an official apology to former coach Frank Kush and allowed him back in the fraternity of Arizona State, which was wrong because of how he was pushing his players back in the 70s. Regardless of that, Nebraska had a 26-game winning streak. And not only did Arizona State beat Nebraska, they shut them out, 19-0. Plummer threw for 20 completions for 292 yards, setting a school record for career passing yards in the process. ASU shockingly went undefeated in the regular season and won the Pac-10 championship, which meant a trip to the Rose Bowl. And of course, this is before the BCS stuff happening. So anyway, he had a great touchdown run in the 4th quarter against Ohio State in the Rose Bowl, but somehow Joe Germain led Ohio State down the field and they won the game 20-17. It looked like Arizona State was going to be the national champions, and rightfully so. Unfortunately, because of their loss, they ended up 4th, and Florida, if I remember correctly, was the national champion that year. Plummer was 3rd in Heisman Trophy voting behind Danny Warfel of the Gators and Iowa State's Troy Davis. He ended his career with several school records. He still has the Arizona State record for 34 games with a rushing or passing touchdown. All that. With Arizona State, he had 8,626 passing yards, 64 touchdowns, 34 interceptions. So he's 3rd in passing yards, 4th in TDs nowadays. So anyway, the 97 NFL draft happened, and you're going to be thinking, how many quarterbacks were drafted ahead of him? Well, that's a good question. The first quarterback drafted was San Francisco, 26th overall, but it was Jim Druckenmiller from Virginia Tech. What a name. But yeah, it was Druckenmiller. It was not Danny Warfel. Plummer would become the second quarterback drafted when he was drafted by Arizona State. So that was huge and all that. Danny Warfel wasn't even drafted. Who won the Heisman? Wasn't even drafted to the 4th round by the Saints. So that tells you that people weren't too keen on Warfel. Anyway, he was the third string quarterback Plummer was in that 97-98 season, behind Ken Graham and Tony Case. He actually took his first snap in the 4th quarter of the 7th game and got the Cardinals to a 98-yard drive, which capped off a go-ahead touchdown. He had Arizona only won 4 games that year, but Plummer was the main quarterback for 3 of them. You know, he was popular with his days in Arizona State, and it was huge that Arizona would actually take him. So in the 98-99 season, the Cardinals drafted Pat Tillman, fellow ASU member. And alongside Tillman, Plummer started all 16 games, winning 9 games. The Cardinals would shock everyone by winning a trip to the playoffs. In fact, it was a dramatic last week field goal against San Diego with Don Criqui on the call. That's Chris Jackie, former Green Bay kicker, hit a 50-yarder through the uprights and get the Cardinals to the playoffs. And then, in a rarity, the fans would actually storm the field. Because, well, it was common at Sun Devil Stadium because that's where Arizona State played. Regardless of that, the Cardinals made the playoffs and went to Dallas for the wildcard game. And somehow, in some way, Jake the Snake Plummer led the Cardinals to a 22-7 win over the Cowboys. Not only beating Dallas in Dallas, which was rare, but the fact that the Cardinals won their first playoff game as a franchise since 1947 when they won the NFL championship. Think about it. I did a video on the Philadelphia the blizzard of 1948 for the NC title game between the Cardinals franchise and the Eagles franchise. But yeah, I referenced how the Cardinals were once in Chicago, then in St. Louis in 1960, and then moved to Arizona in 1988. Anyway, the Cardinals lost to the Vikings, but still, they won a playoff game. The Cardinals, unfortunately, were disappointing, only winning 6 games. He was a risk-taking gunslinger, and it was a liability. In 2000, he threw for over 2,900 yards, but threw 21 interceptions. The Cardinals just couldn't do anything and all that. But he bounced back in 2001. Only one of two quarterbacks to take every snap. Kerry Collins of the Giants was the other. And he passed for over 3,600 yards, 18 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. Unfortunately, the Cardinals only won 7 games. He did eclipse 15,000 career passing yards with the Cardinals in 2002. However, he was a free agent and didn't resign. Plummer held 9 Cardinals franchise records, including passing TDs by a rookie, 15, and one game, 4, against Washington. Most times sacked in a game, 10 times. And 300-yard passing games in the playoffs, 2. Nevertheless, he signed as a free agent with the Broncos in 2003, replacing Brian Griese. So anyway, Plummer actually was very laid back and clashed with the domineering head coach Mike Shanahan. It worked out. Plummer had a career-high quarterback rating and got the Broncos to the wild card, which they got butt-whipped by the Colts, 41-10. However, in 2004, he matched or surpassed several of John Elway's passing records, including passing yards and TDs in a single season. He threw 4 touchdowns and 499 yards against Atlanta in a big game. Unfortunately, though, he threw 3 interceptions in that game as well. However, the Broncos did go to the wildcard game and again lost to the Colts, 49-24. In 2005, Plummer did fantastic. He threw over 220 consecutive passes without being picked. And somehow in the 05-06 season, the Broncos were the 2 seed and won 13 games. The Broncos would face the Patriots in the AFC divisional game at Advanced Field. Plummer's performance was huge as the Broncos broke the Patriots' winning streak of 11 straight postseason games, which was impressive, but of course pissing me off as a Patriots fan. It was the first time the Broncos actually won a playoff game since Super Bowl 33 in 1999. The good news for the Broncos was that they would host the AFC title game because the number 1 seed Colts choked to the 6 seed Pittsburgh Steelers, thanks to Mike Vanderjag's missed field goal late in the game. The bad news is those same Pittsburgh Steelers knocked them out of the AFC title game by a score of 34-17, and the Steelers won the Super Bowl. In November 2006, Plummer would be replaced as starting quarterback by Jay Cutler. A lot of people were unsure about it. They did lose to San Diego and Kansas City, but they were 7-4. Some say that was a bad move and all that. And Plummer was 40-18 with the Broncos above regular season playoff thing. So Denver decided to give Jay Cutler the reins to the franchise and then traded Plummer to Tampa for a 2008 pick. A lot of people said that Plummer was going to choose retirement over competition with the 4 other quarterbacks. He decided to retire. Rather than face off against Bruce Gronkowski, Tim Rattay, Jeff Garcia, and Luke McCown for the spot on the Buccaneers roster. They all sucked. Well, Garcia didn't. But he was still under contract with the Bucs and actually got a signing bonus. Tampa's coach John Gruden mad with Plummer to try to make him reconsider. The team would sue for recovery of the bonus after the attempt was unsuccessful. Plummer did give Tampa back $3.5 million. So with Arizona and Denver, he had a 69-67 record as a starting quarterback, 29,254 yards, 161 touchdowns, and 161 interceptions. Since his retirement from the NFL, he's an avid player of handball. So, anyway, all that. He married a former Broncos cheerleader in 2007, and the first child born in 2010. He lives in relative anonymity in Sandpoint, Idaho. So anyway, it was amazing and all of that. A lot of hostile stuff and all that. In June 1997, he struck a plea agreement that he grabbed 4 women at a nightclub in Tempe, Arizona. He received 2 years probation, was fined over $1,000, and performed 100 hours of community service. After 9 months, the probation actually was ended because of his exemplary behavior. He was inducted to the ASU Hall of Fame. Plummer was a massive fan of Pat Tillman, his teammate at Arizona State, and had a great relationship with him. They were close friends, and while Plummer was still with the Cardinals, Tillman actually shocked everyone in the Cardinals organization, especially Plummer, by saying he was going to join the U.S. Army Rangers in response to 9/11. Unfortunately, Tillman would die in Afghanistan by friendly fire April 22nd, 2004. And everyone would honor Tillman and all that. Plummer actually requested to wear the Cardinals decal for the entire season, even though it was with the Broncos, but the NFL said no. So Plummer in 2005 would actually grow an untrimmed full beard and wear his hair long in honor of Tillman. He wore that hair and beard, but of course he had to shave it off because of the military uniform regulations. Plummer used cannabis to treat the pain, inflammation, and headaches of his years playing football, and he decided to be a medical cannabis advocate. Sometimes it's not as easy as it looks, and that's the truth. Anyway, I'm Jeff. I'm going to do